Alrighty, Paulette, I have 7 o'clock.
Okay, great. I will now call the meeting to order at 7:00 p.m. For the audience tonight, I am the vice chair and I will serve as the presiding officer for tonight's meeting. Before we move forward, I'd like to announce that this is in response to executive orders issued by Governor Newsom. The city is conducting a teleconference public meeting utilizing Zoom video communications. This allows the city to continue to conduct essential business and comply with public health administration recommendations to protect the public, city employees, practice social distancing, and limit exposure by not allowing an in-person public meeting. To ensure the public will be able to participate, public comments can be submitted as live comments during the Zoom meeting and via email at publiccomment@cityofglendora.org. Tonight we have 4 public hearings on the agenda. Public comment testimony will be taken during the public comment portion of the public hearing. Madam Clerk, will you please conduct roll call?
Thank you, Vice Chair. At this time, I will conduct an oral roll call and request that each commissioner respond with the word present when their name is called. Commissioner Norwood. You're muted.
Present.
There you go. Commissioner Arcetti.
Present.
Vice Chair Koss.
Present.
And Chair Davis is absent. Thank you.
Okay. Would one of my fellow commissioners like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I would. Thank
Okay,
you.
great. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Arcetti.
You're welcome.
At this time, does anybody wish to reorder or to add anything to the agenda? Okay, so then hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and open the public comment period. Members of the public are invited to address the Planning Commission on items listed on the agenda. The speakers are limited to 3 minutes, speaking once, both on and off agenda items. This is your time to speak uninterrupted. Please address your comments to the presiding officer. Public comment is limited to 30 minutes. If you would like to request to speak, select the raise hand icon in Zoom before the close of public comment period. You will then be called upon when your turn is up to speak. Have any public comments been received?
I did receive one email earlier that I did make part of the agenda and part of the record, as well as I sent it to all the commissioners for tonight's meeting, but it is for the public hearing item number 2. So I saved it both in public comment online as well as under item number 2, that public testimony will be accepted for that item. And right now, do we have any members on the Zoom call that would like to speak? If you can please raise your hand if you're interested. We have none.
Okay, so the email public comment will hear that during the second agenda item, correct?
No, it's made part of the record already, so it will not be read.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I will now close public comment period. So do any of my fellow commissioners have any statements or anything to report? Commissioner Arcetti?
Thank you very much, Chair Koss. Just letting you guys know, I'm up right now in Rosedale, just outside of Sacramento. Been on the Caldor fire for the last 10 days, so really glad I got to make it. Today's an off day, so to make it to this meeting, and yeah, I just appreciate all the city's flexibility with me not knowing if I was going to make it or not, so thank you. And yeah, looking forward to tonight's meeting.
Okay, thank you we're glad you could make it as well, and thank you for that service for us. Commissioner Norwood, do you have any comment or statement?
I have nothing tonight, thank you.
Okay. Community Development Director Jeff Kugel, do you have a statement?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Okay. Assistant City Attorney Lona Lehman, do you have a statement?
Not tonight. Thank you very much.
All right. The next thing on our agenda is special items, and I note that there are no special items tonight. So we will go into the first public hearing. So our first public hearing is to recommend to the City Council to approve the following: amend the Glendora General Plan, Community Plan 2025 Land Use Element, Zone Change and Establishment of Site-Specific Development Standards, Development Plan Review, and Tentative Track Map number 74990 for the development of a new subdivision consisting of 30 detached two-story homes on fee simple lots located at 1237 Bonnie Cove Avenue, Glendora, California. Project number PLN 210010, applicant Clearwater Communities. So I am now declaring the public hearing open on this item. So City Planner Mark Carnahan, would you like to make your report?
Thank you. Good evening, Vice Chair, members of the Commission. Mark Carnahan, City Planner. As stated tonight, for your consideration is a request by Clearwater Communities, a housing developer, who's proposing construction of a new residential project on the west side of Bonnie Cove, at the northern end of Bonnie Cove where it meets the 210 freeway. Next slide. In order to accomplish the development, the following discretionary approvals have been requested. Number one is a general plan amendment to change the land use designation. Two is a zone change and establishment of site-specific development standards. Three is a tentative track map to create a residential subdivision. Four is a development plan review for the project's development plans. And five is finally the environmental determination on the project's prepared CEQA analysis. Note that the Planning Commission is an advisory body on this matter and will be making a recommendation to the City Council. Next slide. The subject site is a vacant 4.1 acre irregularly shaped piece of land on the west side of Bonnie Cove. The site is bordered by residential development to the west, south, and east, and the 210 freeway on the north. Above the 210 freeway at this location would be the South Hills Park and its trails. Next slide. And this is just a different view of the park. This would be kind of an oblique view looking east. You can kind of see the subject site's the green area on the left. Next slide. Different view looking northwest. The same area on the 210 there. Everything kind of green is the site pretty much. Next slide. These are just some site pics. One's taken from street view. The one on the bottom right is taken from street view looking up the slope of the project site, and the one on the left is kind of sitting kind of towards the top of the site looking down towards Bonnie Cove. Next slide. These are the photos of the immediate adjacent residential houses, the immediate neighbors, next door neighbors, and the two, well, the one on the top right's across the street. The one on the top left is across the street. Top right is the one to the south. And then the ones to the bottom are the ones across the street as well. Next slide. Rosewalk is another neighborhood project site. It is located about at the end of Bonnie Cove, the block of Bonnie Cove, about 6 properties south of this. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later in the project site. But that's at the southern end of the block. Next slide. So the project site has a general planned land use designation of low density residential, which is intended for transitional areas between hillside areas and higher density single family residential areas. Permitted residential densities are 1.1 to 3 dwelling units per acre. Here again is just a visual showing the general plan designation, our maps, and how it works for the site around it. The site is identified there with the red border. Next slide. This is the zoning map, and it's showing the zoning designations, which is the current zoning designation is E6, single family estate. And the purpose of the single family residential zone, as stated in the municipal code, is to protect them and promote the unique single family nature of the city by limiting uses in such zones to residential and residential compatible uses, by requiring standards for the use, maintenance, and development of single-family residential zone properties. The minimum lot size in the E6 zone is about 12,500 square feet. Here again is the visual. Again, the bordered area is the subject site. And I apologize for the typo there on the R2 zone on the corner there. It's supposed to say R2 PD, which because they're also a planned development. Sorry about that. All right, next slide. So the site has a long entitlement history. As far as we can tell, it's never been built on, but it has had a history with it. So I'll do a quick history lesson. In 1966, we believe the site was annexed to the city as vacant properties. In 1985, the city initiated a general plan amendment and a zone change from E4 to E6 for 16 parcels, including the subject properties near the terminus of Bonnie Cove, to, quote, preserve the existing equestrian and residential development in the area. At the time, about 5 of the 16 parcels were keeping horses. This is the current zoning that's in place today. In 1990, the city denied an application for a subdivision and development at the site due to concerns. And however, back in a year later, in 91, after multiple revisions, the city council approved the project for 6 single-family lots. After multiple extensions, this entitlement eventually expired in 1998 after lack of inaction. In 2006, a concept review application for a 9-home subdivision was submitted, and formal applications for a subdivision and development plan followed in 2007 and 2008. Staff determined the technical studies were needed for further assessment, and the applicant was notified of the next steps and additional money deposits that were required. The owner never responded, and the application was terminated in 2009. Next slide. So we are now with the current developer. So in 2016, the Clearwater Communities, the current developer, which is an Orange County-based real estate company, began trying to entitle the site. Fast forward a couple of years, in December 3rd, 2019, the Glendora Planning Commission held a public hearing on their application for a 31-unit proposal, which was a condominium map, and it concluded with a recommendation for approval on a 5-0 vote. However, at the public hearing before the City Council, which was in January of 2020, the application was denied without prejudice by the council on a 5-0 vote. Next slide. I would say the new proposal then, after some time of reevaluating the projects a little bit, in January 2016, the applicant, they submitted an application, and then in January 2021, the City Council held a public study session on the zoning regulations and conceptual plans relating to the development of a 30-unit project at the same site, same developer, kind of similar, but had a few changes. The biggest changes from the previous site were that they reduced the project by 1 lot. If it was 31, now it's 30. There were layout changes at the westernmost part of the project. They eliminated the 2 driveway kind of long driveway spurs that were located off the cul-de-sac, and they reoriented all the homes to now face the street like a true residential kind of neighborhood street kind of setup. They changed the underlining subdivision land ownership type. The original proposal was a condominium development. This proposal is going to be a fee simple lots. No, even though it's going to be fee simple lots, so everybody's going to have their own little sliver of ownership of land with their house on it. It still will have an HOA, which is the same as the previous proposal. And the HOA is going to be needed because they still will have a private road. In this case, they're going to have a private park on the end. They also going to have some maintenance on the front yards, and also some shared utilities under the road. So because of all that, the HOA would be needed to help administer and manage all that. But individual home ownership would be allowed with the land with the fee simple scenario. One other change was that the community open space changed. Previously, sort of towards the middle of the site, they had a connection with a kind of a walkway that went down into the slope of the southern slope. It was kind of used for maintenance too, but it was an access way. They eliminated that need for that walkway since they went to fee simple, and so that the homeowner association wasn't going to be owning the slope anymore. It was going to be owned by individual property owners. They eliminated that, and instead they created a terminus of the cul-de-sac, a small little pocket park for the community to be shared. And actually the site would have, well, if you've been to the very northern part of this property, it's going to have really stellar views west. I've actually seen downtown LA from this site. If things work out, that park could actually be a great viewing park for the community. The other thing that was changed with this proposal is they also changed some of the grading, and some of the hillside walls were adjusted to lower the wall heights a little bit. So that was a big change in terms of that as well. Particularly the walls to the west and the sound walls, and also to some of the walls to the south with the neighbors. That changed as well. I should probably note, at the city council meeting for the study session, they took no formal action because it wasn't a formal proposal. We were just trying to get policy input and suggestions from the council to see if the applicant was going in the positive direction. And I think the staff and the applicant felt like we did get that feeling from the commission through their comments, and suggested that this was moving in a positive direction. It wasn't the same proposal as the one before. After that fact, on March 22nd, the city council received this proposal as a formal application for development for the new subdivision of the 30 units. Again, it has 2-story homes, the fee simple lots. It still included an amendment for the general plan, the zone change, the establishment of site-specific development standards, tentative track map, and they had to redo the entire CEQA analysis. So that was the reapplication. Next slide. So as previously mentioned, the parcels have a general plan land designation of low density residential. The proposal is to change it to a medium density residential to allow an increased unit density. I should remind everybody that the general plan amendments are fully discretionary, and when evaluating a project's relationship to these questions, staff needs to point out that in the report and in the resolutions, we did cite several relevant excerpts from the general plan land use and housing elements, and the city's planning considerations, goals, and policies were also noted. I need to also emphasize that the amending of a general plan is a significant policy decision that should be carefully assessed. The proposal is sensitive because the requested medium density designation is different than the immediate neighbors with its low density surrounding neighbors. Again, some of those were done originally for horse property zoning. It's very low density for the city. Most of the neighborhood, again, is more R1 than the really low density that they're looking at. Again, also there is the Rosewalk community, which is on the same block. It's about maybe six or so parcels south of this one, which also needs to be said. Real quickly before I move on, this table is just shown to kind of, it was in the report as well, as a comparison between the land use types and zoning types. General plans on the left, zoning is on the right in terms of compatibility and their applicable densities and acreages. So you can kind of see a comparable of what's existing, which is the first row, and what's being proposed is the second row. It should be noted the proposal for this site is about 7.1, I believe, DU per acre. So it's kind of on the low end of that minimum to maximum scale. So next slide. So as mentioned, also the request is for a planned development. And so the municipal code states that the purpose of this zoning is to provide for residential development on a comprehensive basis by using site-specific techniques not permitted through the literal application of zoning and subdivision regulations, and to produce an environment of stable, desirable community in harmony with existing potential development in the surrounding area. The planned development zone is intended to achieve all those points there. I'm not going to read them all to you. You kind of need to realize that the PD zone basically establishes site-specific development standards. It's a planning tool to understand what the site features are of the area, what the development wants for itself, and you can kind of create what it needs to be and create those specific standards. Next slide. So this is the standards they would have. So, you know, you look at the code now, you see R1, R2, all these other zonings, and they have in there what the setbacks should be, what the zoning should be, all these kind of requirements. PD is going to establish their own. They're usually consistent in some type with the densities, with the allowable uses, but you get to create your own development standards. And this is sort of what would be established here. And in most cases, it's just consistent with what the proposed site plans are that you'd be seeing today. And again, it allows just the flexibility for a site like this, which this is a good candidate of that. You know, oftentimes local zoning ordinances aren't flexible. They don't allow a developer that flexibility to address site-specific topography issues or, you know, design issues that can be customized in an innovative way like this proposal does. This isn't comparable to the properties next door because it has such a large slope issue next to the freeway that is different. That is a topography issue that needs to be addressed and be aware of, that they need some consideration when they're looking at their design here. So in this case, they will have a large slope on the south. That is a large land area that needs to be planned for and needs to be accommodated for. So that said, the other thing to note is the Rosewalk development at the end of the block. I don't want to spend too much time on that, but that also was a very similar project of a very similar nature, similar density. Again, it also proposed a general plan amendment to the same designation being requested. They also requested a planned development for that type of zoning, establishing their own standards. So very similar type of request in that sense. The housing product type that's being proposed is different. Those are more condos, these are going to be more true houses, but more in a smaller, compact kind of true neighborhood itself, in terms of design, I'd say. The other thing to note is the housing element identifies, you know, the need for additional housing units within the city. And other considerations that the city needs to start considering is, you know, we do have a regional housing needs assessment requirement of the state, and this would be going towards increasing our housing stock and trying to satisfy those numbers. Next slide. So the project itself is comprised of 30 detached 2-story residential houses with 2-car garages attached on the 4.2 acre undeveloped land. Again, it's about 7.1 dwelling units per acre. The 2-story homes would range in size from about 2,200 to 2,900 square feet, and would either be 3 or I would say 4+ bedrooms. Sorry, there are 4 different floor plans, each available in architectural styles that they're identifying as being, quote, Craftsman Colonial or, quote, Santa Barbara, resulting in 8 different building elevations. The elevations, in staff's opinion, are nicely articulated and they're carefully detailed. And their maximum height would be about 25 feet, which is the maximum allowed. Next slide. The current site plan includes a 39-foot wide private roadway that roughly bisects the property for the use of the adjacent homes, which again, it terminates into a cul-de-sac. The roadway includes a sidewalk and a parking area for guests on the south side of the street. The front entrance of the new roadway will not be gated. And one side, again, includes that sidewalk and the guest parking. Each home includes an attached 2-car garage, and as well as many of the homes include individual driveways as well as part of with their garage access in front. Next slide. The freeway and Caltrans is definitely something to talk about on this project. So the site is obviously located next to the 210 freeway. The northern portion of the project site includes an existing slope embankment area, which is currently recorded as a Caltrans easement. The applicant requested termination of the easement, and Caltrans has agreed to relinquish the slope easement. Once the development's sound walls and the grading improvements are installed, and there's no longer then a need for Caltrans to maintain a slope. As part of the project's environmental review, a noise study was prepared, which indicated the need for sound walls along the northern and western portions of the site that are going to be between 4 to 13 feet in height. The construction of the sound walls was a mitigation measure of the project. In addition, the inclusion of sound-rated windows and entry doors was also a requirement. In staff's opinion, the site's proximity to the freeway and its physical conditions have probably been the central factor in its lagging development, being one of the last projects, in this area not to be developed on. Large estates were the envisioned for this E6 area, but they never really ever materialized as part of the site, as the site history I noted indicated. As well as other cities are considering increased residential product types along their major freeways, especially the communities along east of Glendora. Next slide. I just want to include kind of give you a visual. So the slope easement isn't small, and it's kind of an awkward shape, but the yellow area there is the Caltrans easement that would need to be vacated as part of the project. And so again, once those walls are up and the slope is regraded, they would abandon that slope area, which is the yellow. Next slide. So the property, again, is impacted by two major forces. Again, it's the proximity to the two freeway and that existing of that slope easement. But again, it's also its site itself. The site, it has uneven topography with sloping terrain. The soil itself is mostly a fill material from the freeway construction. So it needs to be said that there will be major grading to accommodate this residential development and its private road. The topography of the site varies in elevation by about 45 feet with an average slope of about 21%. And not all of it is natural, because again, if, looking at the soils reports, quite a large degree of the soil on the site is artificial fill that was put on probably from the freeway construction. So again, to accommodate the development, major grading would need to occur, and as well, which would include soil export off the site, construction of retaining walls. I'll kind of go through some of those through some visuals for you in a second. But again, the retaining walls would range between about 4 to 13 feet. And also to accommodate that there'd be about 56 trees that have to be removed as part of the grading activity. So next slide. I just real quickly go through some of these. I know they're really hard to see, but they do. This first one I think is important to kind of show you how the site needs to be graded to accommodate the street and the neighborhood. So if you squint your eyes really carefully, I should have made it a dashed line red, but if you see, there's a dashed line that goes left to right on this graph that goes from, kind of cuts through the houses and cuts through the trees. And if you look at the middle of the road where it says Citrus Oak Road, if you look kind of towards the middle part there, you see there's a label that says existing grade. And that's important because then this visual I think is the most important, where it's a cross cut section through the whole proposed grading site. You can kind of see how the right-hand side there, which is the northern portion of the property, that top part of the slope will get cut off, and you can kind of see on the right-hand side where that dash line is, and you can kind of see how the slope is being topped off and filled where that left-hand house is. So they're cutting basically on this visual. They're cutting from the right and putting it and filling it on the left, and that's what they needed to kind of make that level street situation happen. And then you can kind of see from the section drawing there on the bottom left and how those retaining walls would work along the southern neighbor. Next slide. These are not as pretty, but this one's kind of more of an impact kind of visual for you to kind of show like what's red is being cut and what's blue is being filled. So you can kind of see again how the upper part, where the upper part slope, and the darker the red, the more cut, and the darker the blue, the more fill. You can kind of see how that balances out in terms of the site, how they're moving the dirt to flatten it out. So next slide. These ones aren't as easy to see. I apologize, but I just wanted to show you them for context. So this is the visual that's just showing the retaining walls and the sound walls. you can kind of see how that's all going to be built. Most of the site, the perimeter of the site will all include a retaining wall or a sound wall of some sort, as well as some of the lots in between each other will also have some low retaining walls to accommodate those lots. We can go back to the slide if anybody needs to see it further. Next slide. This is just that same visual I showed before, so it's harder to see on this one, so we can pass this one. Next slide. And again, if we want to get into the nitty-gritty details of how the cross sections work, you'll see how there's retaining walls and these cross sections work. I just kind of included all these just for visual if they come up, but also just to emphasize that there's a lot of grading and a lot of finessing that has to be done to make this site work in terms of its to accommodate the new neighborhood. Next slide. And again, more. So next slide. So let's move on to the subdivision part of it. So the applicant's proposing to consolidate the existing lots and to basically merge them into one 4-acre site that they would subdivide into these 30 fee simple residential lots for development of, again, the 30 residential homes. It would also include two what's called lettered lots. One of the lettered lots would be for the private drive, and the other lettered lot would be for the community park. The subdivision would be private and exclusive land parcels. It would again include some shared community infrastructure, some community shared landscaping and common areas. The average residential lot size would be about 5,000 square feet. The smallest is around 3,075 square feet, and the largest is about 7,898 square feet. So this is just that visual. Next slide. These are a little bit easier to see. So these are the houses that are being proposed. So per the municipal code, the project would require review and approval of a development plan review to allow the construction of the detached 2-story residential houses, the private drive, and the park. The 30 houses are proposed. There's going to be 7 of them will be 3 bedrooms, and the remaining 23 will be a variation of a 4-bedroom. I would say a 4+. They're 4+ because each of them, the plus will be an optional space for either a loft, a den, or a 5th bedroom, depending on the layout and how the homeowners. There are four different plan types, each available in, again, the architectural style of Craftsman, Colonial, or Santa Barbara, resulting in 4 concepts of each style for a total of 8 different elevation types. The elevations, again, in staff's opinion, are very articulated well and carefully detailed. They also appear to have quality materials and a nice variety. I'll just go through these real quickly, but you can kind of get a flavor of what they are again. So the next slide. This is just the plan 1, and these are just kind of the variations of how plan 1 could look, and its floor plan and architectural styles kind of side by side. Next is plan 2. Next slide. And again, kind of a comparison there. Plan 3 is the next slide. And plan 4 is the final plan and its styles. So next slide. This is what you would see from the public street. All the elevations I showed you just before this were all views from the private street. The public street being Bonnie Cove. This would be kind of what they would envision would be the street entrance with its 2 side profiled houses laying side by side, and how its landscape would work and would slope up to meet those walls and the houses. So again, this is the kind of the public viewing side. And next slide. These are just the kind of colors and materials palette and how they could kind of all work together. Next slide. So landscaping wise, a conceptual landscaping plan is included here in the packet for just a visual context. It's indicating that approximately 68 new trees and various types of shrubs and ground covers could be considered. If the project is approved, a final landscaping plan would need to be prepared for city staff's review and approval, and as well as review of compliance with the state and city's water efficiency regulations. Conditions of approval have been included that require the addition of possible street trees and plantings within the city right away along Bonnie Cove. And common area and front yard landscaping will be the developer installed and maintained by the homeowner association. Rear yards will be homeowner installed and maintained. Maybe I should, next slide. I think that slide's going to show that for you. There you go. So basically the dark areas there are the front yards. Those again are developer installed, HOA maintained. The light green areas here would be the side and backyards. Those are going to be only homeowner installed and maintained. The sloped area, which is the kind of the highlighted area, that is going to be developer installed, homeowner maintained. And then the community park, which is the pink area, that's a private park. That's going to be developer installed, HOA maintained, as well as the yellow area along Bonnie Cove. That's going to be the streetscape. That's going to be developer installed, HOA maintained. Conditions of approval are also included for, again, like as the street tree plantings, as well as just an overall review of the landscaping for the project. Next slide. It's just another visual of the walls if that comes up for discussion. Next slide. This is just a visual of the existing trees on site. Again, all of them would be removed as part of the proposal. Next slide. And again, this is just the schematic view of the proposed landscaping, which again shows the new trees and landscaping numbers meeting the city requirements, and its details again would be discussed later at the rear review. Next slide. So CEQA, the city is the lead agency responsible for preparing documentation in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act. With the assistance of an environmental consultant, Michael Baker International, the draft initial study was completed, which concluded that the project will not have a significant effect on the environment, with inclusion of mitigation measures and a draft mitigated negative declaration, and mitigation monitoring report was prepared. The public review period for the initial study and draft mitigated neg deck commenced in July 6th and ended on July 26th. The city received written correspondence comments regarding this draft document, and the city provided written responses to those comments, and those were included as an attachment to this report. Next slide. Noticing on August 25th, the mailed notice was sent to all property owners within 2,000 feet of the subject parcel, and a notice was posted on the site's physical project notice signboard on August 26th. A notice of public hearing was also published in the San Gabriel Valley Examiner on August 26th. Notification of future public hearing before the city council will be provided once that date is known. Next slide. So the applicant has worked with the city and their architects to incorporate the city council's study session suggestions into this new design. I kind of went over what those changes all were. I won't repeat that. The commission really has three options for consideration. Again, recommendation for approval, for denial, or other lawful action that they feel necessary to make that recommendation to the city council. I guess closing up here, I apologize for the length of this. I know it's a long one, but you can see it's a hefty policy decision for the commission to reconsider. I know a couple of you saw the previous version of this, and some of you haven't, but at least I kind of hopefully gave you a flavor of how the history of the site has worked. If you have any questions tonight, I'm available, as well as the applicant wants to make a short presentation after mine. As well as we have our planning consultant and a CEQA consultant that work with the city. They can also help out if we need any questions on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I understand the applicant, John Loper, is here. And Mr. Loper, you will have 10 minutes to make a statement to the commission.
And I have a set of PowerPoint slides, I believe. Great, next slide. I'm John Loper. I was brought in after the last city council, the first city council meeting, which was directly after the planning commission, to work on this project and look at a redesign of the project. And we came and looked and took a lot of the comments that the city council had made from the original plan and made some changes. And one of the big things we tried to do was make this a single family residential looking project, acting project, felt like it. And so we changed it from a condominium style to traditional fee simple lots. And we redesigned the project. We used the exact same floor plans and elevations, which everyone seemed to like. But we created a curvilinear street with a traditional cul-de-sac at the end and lined all the houses along the street. The shared driveways were all eliminated, so every house had a front porch facing the street and had a driveway. And we also varied the setbacks, and because the street curves, it is in a straight line of homes and is very traditional with a lot of the R1 neighborhoods that are adjacent to this, the way this looks and feels. Next slide, please. We reduced the density slightly from 31 to 30 lots, and the average lot size increased to a little over 5,000 square feet, 5,026. The largest lot's about 7,800 square feet. The smallest lot is in the 3,000s area. So they vary. This also allowed us to give larger backyards to a lot of the lots. It's a more efficient design. So it's a very traditional single family home design. Every house has a 2-car garage, and every house now has a driveway that can park additional cars for the teenage kids that some of us have. And the 3-bedroom unit, one of the floor plans has a 1-car driveway. All the other remaining 3 floor plans that are a little bit larger can fit 2 cars in front of the garage. So very traditional look and setback like you would see in every other R1 zone. In addition, we provided additional guest parking on the street, along the south side of the street where the sidewalk is, so that there was additional parking that is on the homeowners association private street that provides guest parking. Next slide, please. Next slide. The other feature we added was a private park. Previously, we had kind of a walkway along the slope area, and we thought about this and said, what can we do that would make this give more of a neighborhood feel? And we had this wonderful view of the San Gabriel Valley looking west, which is a wonderful view. I grew up in the San Gabriel Valley, and we always loved seeing the glimpses of downtown LA from various places. This particular end of the cul-de-sac, by pulling the cul-de-sac a little bit away from the edge of the property, allow us to do a pocket park. We thought this was a great way to have an active area, a grass area for kids to play, parents to hang out while the kids are playing together. And it is private, so it's maintained by the homeowners association. There's no cost to the city for this, but it was a great amenity and a great use of space. And you'll be able to have some beautiful views on those days when the winds are blowing and are clear. And so we thought this would be a great amenity and a little bit more usable, plus much more friendly for gathering and being together than just a trail that kind of winds through a slope. Next slide, please. When we did this plan, one of the things we did was to revise the grading. And we eliminated a lot of retaining walls, and we reduced the height of a lot of retaining walls. The new grading plan places the homes lower than the freeway, as you can see by some of those sections that Mark showed, and that helps reduce noise impacts. Just as a note, a large portion of that little hill that's in the middle of the site that's going to get cut, that is actually fill from the 210 freeway. That wasn't a natural feature, and that is all fill. That way, that fill is not subject to the Hillside grade ordinance, but that's being cut. Some of it's being moved around the site, and that will allow the homes in the back to be slightly lower than the freeway in portion, and the homes on the south side to have a natural slope instead of a lot of retaining walls on a lot of the lots on the south side. This also gives us larger usable backyards than the previous plan and eliminated a lot of the double wall conditions where we had 2 retaining walls. And that was a big plus. And there was a mention about removing some trees. We'll be adding approximately 68 new trees to replace the trees that we took out. And you can see on this slide a little more of the private park and what that might look like. Next slide, please. So the planned development zone is what we're requesting. We are going to do fee simple lots, very similar to the way any fee simple lot is in the R1 zone. What's the advantage of the planned development zone is it allows the number of lots, the density, the design to be fixed. And if someone later wanted to come in and change the project, they'd have to come in for a full public hearing to change the project. And as Mark mentioned, we are in the medium density residential category, but we're on the very low range. 6 was the minimum, we're at 7.1. And the PD zone fixes it at 30 lots. And so anyone that wanted to change it in the future would have to come in for discretionary approvals to change that. And that runs with the land. It doesn't just run with one owner, it stays with the land. So this planned development zoning designation provides protection to the city by spelling out 30 single family lots, fee simple lots, a homeowners association maintaining the park, maintaining the private street, maintaining the front yards of all the homes to give a nice uniform look. And so when you drive down this project in from Bonnie Cove, you're going to see only 2 houses from Bonnie Cove. But when you come in, you're going to think you're in any other R1 single family neighborhood in the way the houses are positioned with side yards, front yard driveways, porches or covered walkways or loggias in the front. And then a variety of floor plans with different sizes for different types of houses. And by the way, 3 of the 4 floor plans have downstairs bedrooms and baths, which is great for multi-generational housing. So we've thought about our buyer and how we can make some of these homes unique. So 3 of the 4 floor plans have a downstairs bedroom and bath. Next slide. I think. So in summary, what we tried to do with this change was to make this community have the look and feel of a traditional single family neighborhood. We wanted to accommodate a variety of lot sizes. We tried to conform more naturally to the topography and to make this really fit into the neighborhood. We heard it loud and clear in the city council meeting, and we wanted it to look and feel like a single family home neighborhood on what is a very unique lot. This is not a normal flat lot like 6 houses, 6 lots to the south where Rosewalk was built. This is a unique shaped lot. It has a topography. It has a very narrow entrance on the street.
You have
it
less
has a
than
lot
2
of
minutes,
things.
Mr. Looper.
Okay, so the plan development gives us ability to do that. And we feel that we have provided a much better plan than we had before. 1 less lot and fee simple lots. So we're here for questions from any of the planning commissioners at the time. You will have questions and answers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So are there any members of the public here to address the commission? Speakers are limited to 3 minutes, speaking once on a public hearing item. This is your time to speak uninterrupted. Please address your comments to me. The public comment is limited to 30 minutes. If you would like to request to speak, please select the raise hand item in the Zoom before the close of public comment period. You'll be called on when it is your turn. Have any public comments been received?
Yes, we did have 1 email again that I made part of the record that is available online. And we have right now 3 people that are wanting to speak during Zoom. So first, we will call on Andrea Fornes to speak. We'll request for you to unmute at the moment.
Good afternoon, good evening. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Good. Thank you for inviting us. I have my husband, Jeff Fornes, with me. The reason why we're here is because we are adjacent to exactly what is the development that's gonna occur. We're on Tamara Lane. And reality is we're really concerned because our view is gonna be completely demolished. We bought our house with view of downtown LA, city, mountain view, and park view. And so when the Rose development came in, they took the park view away. Now we're losing the mountain view. And so that is a huge concern for us. We enjoy every morning, every afternoon, every evening. We spend time out. So we want to know exactly how that's going to be taken care of. With 25 feet houses, I understand that the property will have killer views for the park, but they are killing our view of the hillside.
Also, one of the concerns we had is we don't understand necessarily grading and zoning, as in detail as everyone else does. So being adjacent to that community during the construction phases of it, what is going to be the direct impact to us? Is there going to be one? Just wanted to understand a few more things. I don't know the best way to go about it. If it's meeting with one of the members of the planning team or some other venue, but just would like to understand that better. Just want to have a detailed understanding of what if ultimately it is approved, what are the direct what's the direct impact?
And my biggest concern is our direct impact is our view. Our view is definitely with 25-foot 2-story buildings with retaining walls. Our view is gone. We're going to see nothing but buildings. So reality, I don't approve at all. Save our hills, save our view. That's why we all probably bought in Glendora, because of our beautiful hills. So for me, as owner of the home, being able to see the hills, and then when I do go hike up there with my 2 sons and my husband, I'm able to actually even see my house from down there, from up there. So for me, it's a huge concern. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Andrea.
And you said there was another speaker?
Yes,
Or
there's
another
actually,
public?
yeah, so next I'm gonna call on Erica. We're gonna send a request for you to unmute.
Hi, thank you. I couldn't hit the raised hand feature. Sorry about that.
That's okay, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
My name's Erica Landman, and I have some concerns with the development. One thing is, I just keep going back to it. Why do they need to elevate the pads to make this development stick out even more than it already will in our neighborhood? So it's surrounded primarily, yes, there are some 2-story homes, but primarily off of Bonnie Cove. Wait a minute, hold on. I want to make sure everybody could hear. Okay, primarily it's just 1-story homes, that's all. And elevating the pad just seems very excessive. The grading is excessive. That's insane grading going on there. Years ago, there have been at least 3 different projects that have popped up, and every time the EIR cited that as natural hillside slope, and the project didn't go through primarily because of that grading that was being required by the projects. So those were former projects, and every time it got denied. I'm concerned with how you guys are going off of the old traffic study. It's like a 2-year-old traffic study, and for the area. And 210 freeway is insane. In the last 2 years, the traffic has I can't even say if it's tripled or quadrupled or whatever, but it is insane. So 2 years ago, that was not the same 210 freeway, nor Gladstone traffic picking up excess traffic off of the 210 freeway, nor counting the random people who think Bonnie Cove is a through street and they go flying up Bonnie Cove, and then they go and do an angry U-turn at the end because they figure out that the street doesn't go through and they didn't pay attention to the dead end street sign at Bonnie Cove and Gladstone. Also, regarding the city has said that we're in a drought. I don't comprehend any of the projects that are being discussed tonight, because there's supposed to be a drought, yet we're bringing more people in. And I just don't understand that. If somebody could explain that, that would be great, because that is a huge mystery to me regarding all developments coming into Glendora. So I am not in favor of this project. It just really doesn't fit in with the neighborhood off Bonnie Cove. So I live off of Bonnie Cove and the little single-story houses off Dover.
Thank you, Erica. Now I'm going to call on Mary Ellen Ross. We're going to send you to mute.
Thank you. My first comment is with regard to the inclusion of the Caltrans slope easement and how it impacts the density equation. That's unusable land. It's artificially inflating the allowable density. I'd be interested to know how much accommodation in the current standards is being permitted for the amount of grading that will be necessary to accommodate these two-story homes. The 56 trees that are being removed are the 68, I believe it is, replacement trees. Will they be of similar size? Will they be mature trees, or will they be small box trees that are being included? How big is the park? Is the park going to be usable by, if these are 5-bedroom homes or 4-bedroom homes, will it be usable by that many people on a Sunday afternoon? How many parking places will be allowable? And then Commissioner Carnahan mentioned that the adjacent property was originally developed as horse property, as if, well, people don't have horses anymore, so we don't need that density quota. Horses don't increase density. People increase density. And when you have houses with a potential of 5 bedrooms, you're increasing the population of the neighborhood, as our one speaker said, with regard to traffic, use of the community. And I do believe that those factors need to be considered. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. We're going
Okay.
to ask to speak for Zeta Cuevas. And we're going to send your request to unmute.
Yeah, hi, my name is Ruben Cuevas. I'm here with my wife, Arlene, next to me, and I just want to express my concern for the tremendous amount of grading that's going to have to take place in order for all this to come to fruition. I myself am in the construction industry, and it's just an insane amount of grading you guys are going to have to do. I'm butted up against the south wall. And I'm just thinking of all the, the dust control, the sound control barriers, if there's going to be any in place. And I really hope, the city council has their constituents' best interest in mind when they make this decision. It's something we really need to think about, packing 30 houses in that 4 acres, So yeah, just like I said, the amount of grading that's going to take place, knowing that I'm right below that slope to the south of you guys, of the project, it troubles me, and I just hope the city council makes a decision with their constituents in mind, their best interest in mind, and yeah, that's all I got.
Thank you. At this time, I'm not showing any more hands. Is anybody else wishing? We do have one more, Raymond, and we're going to send a request to you. Go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
I just, I kind of understand the concerns as people have said already. It's particularly density because, the original lots were 7, 8 lots, and it's quite an increase that's coming in as far as people wise into the neighborhood. We live a few blocks away off of Bonnie Cove. All I wanted to add was, we came in 6 or 7 years ago when the Rosewalk property was being built. And I would say, let's not use Rosewalk as an example, because the Rosewalk properties, I haven't seen them all, but many of them don't have yards, and there's virtually no public space in there for children to go to and such. And so it's kind of an embarrassment that was there, and we kind of came in when that was being built. So I'm glad that there's been some pushback on this property in order to make it a little more friendly to families and such. And I just wanted to throw that comment in.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else wishing to speak? Seeing none, we have no more, so.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, I know there were some questions raised by some of our speakers, so I'm going to invite the applicant, Mr. Loper. You have about 5 minutes that you can possibly answer some of the questions that were posed.
Okay, thank you very much. So a couple questions. So someone was asking about the park. The park is about 1,668 square feet in its current configuration. You know, it's not exactly a square, so roughly 40 by 40. And it is meant to be a gathering space for the residents. It's not meant to be a public park soccer field or anything like that. The property will be paying the full park fees to the city of Glendora for additional park facilities like they would. We get no credit for the private park, but that's an approximate size. I will say that this property is different than Rosewalk. We have driveways for parking cars. We've got backyards. We have front yards. A lot of the units in Rosewalk have neither front or backyards of any significant size. In terms of grading, there were a lot of questions regarding that. We've actually reduced the amount of retaining walls and differentials in height, but we are taking a portion of the hill down and filling in a smaller portion of it and taking some of the dirt off site. And that will be as part of to create pads to put these homes on. I know there's several other items on the Planning Commission tonight about grading and pads for much larger homes on estate lots. And so we will be doing that. A significant amount of the dirt that we're moving around is dirt that wasn't there prior to the freeway being built. Some other questions regarding the traffic study. I'll let the environmental consultants elaborate on this, but because COVID changed traffic patterns significantly and reduced the number of people driving to work and school and lots of other things, it is very common to use traffic studies when we were pre-COVID and traffic counts. Plus, this project has been in the process of being reviewed for several years in the city. But the environmental company that the city hired can talk more about those questions regarding the environmental review of the traffic study. And we have tried a lot to reduce the impacts in terms of the visual impacts and the view impacts, and compared to the previous project that was proposed and approved by Planning Commission. Based on the comments that the city council made. And so we really tried to make this look like a single family residential, and we have fee simple lots just like the other lots. The lots vary in size because of the topography and the shape of the property. But we feel that we have done a lot to reduce the impacts as compared to what was previously in front of the Planning Commission. I think that's about all the things that I've hit. I do want to mention that one of the conditions of approval, that's an unusual one, but was added by staff, and we thought this was a great idea, is that we will be holding, when these projects get ready to be built prior to the start of construction, we're required to have a pre-construction meeting with the neighborhood to allow us to talk about what the process of construction is, what the issues are, specific issues that specific houses might have or neighbors might have, and to walk through all these things. And this is not a standard condition on a lot of projects, but because of the fact that we're surrounded by a single family neighborhood and we're building single family homes, but we know we've got 30 of them that we agreed to do this and thought this was a great idea and could allow us a one-on-one with each homeowner that's affected, talk to them and see what the issues are. But overall, I think compared to a lot of other plans that could be done on this project, this particular design that we're introducing tonight is definitely has fewer impacts than the previous project that was proposed and passed and approved by the Planning Commission about a little over a year ago.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Loper. So I'm going to go ahead then and discuss and deliberation from members, commissioners. So Commissioner Norwood. Comments or questions?
Yeah, my comments basically is several is First, with the direction the state's going with the regional housing assessments, SB 9 would. Sorry, I'm getting feedback now. My bad. So if we don't, our hands will be forced at some point. The fact that this has gone to a study session to city council, the owners of the properties have a right to develop it. I get that times change and views change and traffic changes, but all we can do is live in the present and try to put the best possible project on there. And again, with the input that council has provided from a policy standpoint, and the fact that I believe that at some point the state's there's going to be greater density there based on the way the state is going in terms of the regional housing and the SB 9. As far as the grading goes, it's no fault of the owners that much of that dirt that is there now was placed there during the construction of the freeway for the grading that was done by Caltrans. So yeah, there are inconveniences during construction, but I think overall the plan and the development is well done, and I'm in favor at this point.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Ursetti.
Thank you, Chair Koss. I think just reading through the public comment that was put out, I think it's a good clarification, the email that we all got. The changing this lot in particular from low density to medium density doesn't change the surrounding areas of the other homes in the neighborhood. I know there was that in the comment, but I do want to say first, thank you to everybody for your public comment. I know, yeah, it takes a lot to come out and speak out about something, and everybody's passionate about where they live, and I do appreciate that. I do have a question for Mr. Loper, would be how long do you think a construction project like this would take? And I hear the concerns of the citizens with the building and the grading. It is a lot of grading, but how from start to finish, what would you expect a project like this to be completed in?
So would we answer that now, or would we answer that at the end, Lorena? What's the process?
If Lana can assist me with that one, because I actually don't know.
You can either one, Vice Chair. You can either have Mr. Loper answer now, or you can hold any questions from the commissioners and have them all answered at once after the commissioners have posed any questions.
Is that okay with you, Commissioner Ursetti, if they answer all the questions at the end?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's, I believe, yeah, would be it for me. Thank you.
Okay, and then I have several comments. First of all, I want to thank the people that came out tonight and spoke. I admire your passion and the fact that you care so much about your community. I really think that's wonderful. I definitely understand your concerns. It is a lot of grading. I do think that, you know, I was on the commission when the first project came, and this project looks much better. It looks, the homes look more like homes and look like they fit more into the community. So I appreciate that. I understand the concerns of all the people that spoke tonight about density. And I know we all moved to Glendora for a reason, right? It's a beautiful, it's, you know, we've got big lots, those kinds of things. But the reality is the state is telling us that we need to increase our density. And so it's up to us to decide how we're going to do that. So I do understand the concerns about density. A couple of questions or comments that I had about the project. First of all, I appreciate how much the environmental, the CEQA, I appreciate how detailed that was. I appreciate how it looks much better than it did the first time. The first time I kind of wasn't great with the aesthetics, and it looks much better now. I do have a concern about some of the trees that are being removed. I believe one of the speakers had that as well. I understand you're replacing them with 68 new trees, but I know those are usually little tiny baby trees. And so I'm also concerned, I understand there's a black walnut that's gonna be removed from the site, and those are not threatened anymore, but if you could, have one of the replacement trees at least be a black walnut, I think that would be a good thing. But other than that, I understand the concerns about grading, but again, this lot didn't originally start out that way. It's the way, it's a result of that, a human activity, all this fill that came from the 210, and so it's created some issues with grading, and I think anything that we build there is going to have a lot of grading done. So I do understand those concerns. So that would be pretty much be my comments. So now, if it's okay, if we can have Mr. Loper maybe answer a couple of questions that the commissioners had.
Yes, sorry, I had to get everything unmuted. In terms of timing, we expect about 6 months to prepare the site, grading and putting the street in, and about 12 months to build out 30 homes. It will depend on what's going on in the economy. The whole site will get graded and the street will be put in and utilities put in all at once. But typically, before this crazy real estate market, you would build 10 homes in a phase, or 8 to 12 homes in a phase, and you build in multiple phases. And that's why we're saying about 12 months for the time to build, because it doesn't take 12 months to build one home, but if you build them in 3 little batches, a couple months apart from each of them. So we're looking at potentially 18 months overall. The most significant part of the construction process is the grading and putting utilities in, sewer and water and storm drain and all that good stuff. And that we think is around a 6-month process, barring a El Nino rain year or something like that. In terms of the black walnut tree, we would be happy to put a version of black walnut that is resistant to the disease that's been going around, of which they have. They're hard to get, but you can order them and have them grown for you, basically. And replace that one black walnut with a black walnut, maybe in the private park area. We want to put it in a spot so it doesn't block all the views, but we'd be happy to do that.
Can I just clarify, their conceptual plan already proposes 3 black walnuts on the slope,
Okay, great. Thank you.
as well as the tree mitigation measures are in compliance with the city's adopted tree replacement policy. We have an adopted policy for tree removals and their replacements. The conceptual plans they showed us are in compliance with that ratio. So yes, some trees would be planted smaller, but there's a requirement for, it's kind of a scale. So the 24-inch box size is like a 1-to-1. A bigger tree that's a 48-inch box for a tree, like a 37 to 48-inch tree would be like a 2-to-1. So it depends on the size of the existing tree, depending on the replacement number. But the current conceptual plans do show current compliance. But again, that's something we would review later on as part of a follow-up landscaping plan.
Okay, thank you. So I think at this time, do any of the commissioners have any additional comments or questions?
I have a question for the applicant. This is Commissioner Norwood.
Okay, go ahead.
You mentioned that the planning overlay that's unique to that piece of property would pretty much not be able to be changed by other people that own the property. So you're in the position there right now of developing the property. Is it your intention or the applicant's intention to actually develop it? Because the value of that property will go up significantly once it is approved by council. So is this something you guys truly plan on developing, or is it something you're looking to move down the road?
Make sure I'm unmuted. In terms of the PD development, we had questions regarding if the general plan got changed to had a big range of densities, what would prevent someone else in the future from changing the plan and building 10 units per acre versus 7 units per acre? And that's the discussion of the PD locks it in at 30 units. And someone would have to come in for a planning commission approval and a city council approval because the PD zone is a zoning that is set in code. It's a resolution, and someone would have to come in and change that resolution. So there would be 2 public hearings. That was the intent of talking about a future owner. Clearwater's Communities has built, the owner of Clearwater's Communities has built a lot of homes. Sometimes they sell land to other home builders who might, and sometimes they build. But the concern that we had been raised at the city council meeting was, what if we change the general plan now, how do we know that we're only going to have 30 lots and they're going to look like this? And that was the intent of talking about a future owner, in terms of the PD zone is fixed with the land, and someone would need to have public hearings to change anything on it at this point, because the zoning is unique to this parcel.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so if there are no others, I'm going to go ahead and close public hearing. And
If I may briefly just ask the applicant, have you reviewed the conditions of approval and the mitigated negative declaration requirements, and are you accepting of those?
Yes, we've reviewed them and we're accepting of them.
Thank you.
okay, right, close public hearing and request a motion. Do you need me to read the recommendation again, or?
No, it's okay. I'll take care of it. So if we can ask for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve or for the approval for the recommendation of city council for the project as that has been presented. That would include any type of vegetation or trees to replace existing trees that was mentioned. I think the black walnut was one of them. And I think that was the only thing that we really were talking about making sure they did.
Well, with all the conditions of approval, I think, too, yeah.
Yes. So I'll make the motion to go ahead and approve.
Perfect. Solely noted. Do we have a second?
Second.
So we have a motion made by Commissioner Norwood and then seconded by Commissioner Arcetti. I will now conduct a roll call. Commissioner Norwood,
Yes.
Commissioner Arcetti,
Yes.
Vice Chair Koss.
Yes,
So the motion carries 3-0 with 1 absent. Thank you.
okay. All right, so it looks like we are on item 3. The consideration of a resolution. Oh, do I need to reopen public hearing again? I think I do. Anyway, reopen public hearing for the consideration of a resolution to approve a non-conforming lot development plan review to allow the construction of a 3-unit multiple family residential development on certain property located at 117 North Vista Bonita Avenue in Glendora, California. Project number PLN 21001. Applicant Joe Calabrese, Calabrese Architect. So I'm going to go ahead and open public hearing, and if we could have Assistant Planner Joseph Weaver present his staff report.
Hi, thank you and good evening, Vice Chair and Commissioners. The item before you this evening is a request for the approval of a non-conforming lot development plan review to allow the construction of 3 two-story multiple family residential units located at 117 North Vista Bonita Avenue. Project number is PLN 21-0001. Next, please. Pursuant to the Glendora Municipal Code, a multiple family lot, which is non-conforming in lot size, dimension, and configuration, shall obtain approval of a non-conforming lot development plan review. In this case, the subject property has a non-conforming lot width of 45 feet, whereas 70 feet is required for the zone, as well as a non-conforming size of 5,383 square feet, whereas 10,000 square feet is required for the zone. Because of the lot's non-conforming nature, a non-conforming lot development plan review is being requested for the project. The approval of this application will allow 3 two-story multifamily units totaling about 4,000 square feet in size, and each unit will contain 1 bedroom. Other related on-site and public right-of-way improvements are also proposed. And lastly, no code deviations are being requested as part of this application, as it is a non-conforming lot. It's worth noting that all applicable development standards are met and complied with. Next. So some quick legislative history on the lot. The subject property was once developed with an existing single-family craftsman style residence, about 1,224 square feet in size. It also had a detached accessory structure located towards the rear of the lot. This residence was built in 1910 and was formerly identified as a contributing resource to the Historic Preservation Overlay Zone, also referred to as the HPOZ, which the property is within. In 2017, under project number PLN 17-0040, all on-site structures were approved for demolition by the City Council due to the site's deteriorated condition, neglect, and after a showing of hardship by the property owner. All structures were demolished the following year, and the property has since remained vacant. And very lastly, a certificate of compliance for the property was obtained and recorded in 2019, which demonstrates this lot as legally created and compliant with the Subdivision Map Act. Next. So shown here is a vicinity map. You can see the subject property, 117 North Vista Bonita Avenue, highlighted in yellow. It's located on the west side of North Vista Bonita Avenue, just north of East Foothill Boulevard. The property is approximately 5,383 square feet in size, 45 feet in width, and 119 feet, 8 inches in depth. As previously mentioned, this lot is non-conforming with regard to lot size and width when compared to the standards of the zone. The existing site is currently vacant, as mentioned, and contains no on-site structures or trees. The only existing tree is an oak tree, which is located on an adjacent parcel directly to the north of the property. As shown, the site's located within the downtown village area, and it's surrounded by commercial, residential, and some parking lot areas. North of the project site, there's an underground LA County flood control channel, as well as a city-owned public parking lot. To the south and west of the site consists of various commercial uses. And lastly, to the east of the project site are existing single-family homes, many of which are contributing resources to the Historic Preservation Overlay Zone. Next. The project site has a general plan land use designation of village mixed use, which is intended for a mix of complementary uses and allows for multifamily residential. Next. And the project site is located within the Civic Center area plan, which encompasses the village and surrounding areas. The specific zoning designation as shown is CCAP T5 Village Core, which allows for commercial, residential, or mixed use developments. Additionally, the subject is located within the HPOZ, which is the city's historic overlay zone. As such, the project, since being in the overlay zone, must maintain consistency with Secretary of Interior standards for the rehabilitation of historic structures. Staff has reviewed the project's consistency and compatibility with the surrounding areas and deemed the proposed design compatible with other structures in the historic district. Next, please. The next few slides will be some photos. So this is a picture of the front of the site, street view from Vista Bonita. We're facing west in this shot. Next, please. Another photo taken from the street. This is kind of viewing southwest toward the adjacent Visiting Angels building, which is on Foothill. Next. Another up close shot. This is right off of the sidewalk facing west. Next. Another shot just a little further forward. Next, please. This shot is looking to the southwest of the lot. Next. And just opposite of that to the northwest, this is facing the city parking lot and alley to the north. Next. And this is taken from the back of the lot facing towards Vista Bonita. You can see some of the single family homes across the street. Next. And this is just a photo of the existing oak tree that's located on the parcel deeded to LA County Flood Control District. Next. So this is just an existing site plan. Again, nothing much to see here as the property is currently vacant and undeveloped. Next. So shown here is the proposed site plan where you can visually see each unit. Again, there are 3 units. Units A and B are each 1,340 square feet in size. And they consist of a 628 square foot first floor area and a 712 square foot second floor area. Unit C is 1,324 square feet in size and consists of a 628 square foot first floor area and a 696 square foot second floor area. As you can see, there's a pedestrian walkway that connects the public right-of-way to each unit entrance. There is a proposed vehicular driveway in the form of a 19-foot two-way driveway, which meets the minimum width requirements for a 3-unit multifamily development. And this driveway will provide access to each unit's 1-car garage located at the ground level. The driveway connects the site directly to Vista Bonita Avenue. The design of the proposed driveway, parking spaces, back out distances, and all other circulation improvements meets all the applicable development standards. Lastly, the municipal code does not include specific open space requirements for this zone. As such, the project includes approximately 200 square feet of common space area to the rear of the lot in front of the entrance to Unit B. Staff notes that additional open space in the form of private second floor balconies was encouraged, and it was explored by the applicant, but decided not to be included in the final designs. Regarding public right-of-way improvements, you can see the right-of-way on the right side of the plan. The existing drive approach for this site is proposed to be shifted slightly to the north of its current location in order to accommodate the new driveway. Also, an existing tree well is going to be relocated slightly to the north to still in front of the project site, but outside of the proposed driveway area. So those proposed improvements will be required to have permits pulled from the Public Works Department. Next. Shown here is the first floor plan of all 3 units. As you could see, each first floor contains an oversized 1-car garage, a laundry area inside that garage, and an entry room with a storage closet, which is each unit's entrance. Each garage provides 250 cubic feet of storage area, which is compliant with the garage storage requirements for parking garages. Next. The second floor plan of each unit consists of a kitchen, living room, a bathroom, and 1 bedroom with a closet. So you can see they're all pretty much identical to each other in configuration and size. Next. Shown here are the south and east elevations, as well as a southeast rendered view. It will give you an idea on what the proposed project will look like. The project consists of an architectural style which could be described as neo-craftsman. The design features a gable roof form, shed roof entry awnings with exposed rafter tails and exposed wood beams. Note that the east elevation on the bottom right will be the street view of this development. So as if you're looking from Vista Bonita Avenue. Next, please. And shown here are the north and west elevations, as well as a northwest rendered view. Staff notes that although craftsman is not technically an allowed architectural style within the CCAP T5 subdistrict, planning staff believes that the proposed neo-craftsman style is appropriate as the site was once developed with a historic craftsman style house. and the surrounding residential neighborhood includes other craftsman architecture examples, some of which are right across the street. Staff believes that the exclusion of this architectural style for the T5 subdistrict is an oversight in the municipal code, and the proposed architecture will in fact be compatible with previous on-site architecture as well as surrounding structures. Furthermore, since the site is within the HPOZ, which again is the Historic Preservation Overlay Zone, and once contained a historic residence, the proposed design is a modern take on traditional craftsman style. Therefore, the design of the apartments will be compatible, but not a copy of a historical on and off-site structures, and it is in keeping with the Secretary of Interior standards as mentioned before. Next, please. Shown here are the exterior materials. You can see they consist of cement plaster siding for the first floor, wood shingle siding with lap siding accents for the second floor, hardy trim board for the building fascia, terracotta accents for the doors and windows, and lastly, an asphalt shingle roof. Next. So the table shown, which is table B, demonstrates this project's compliance with all applicable development standards, including minimum and maximum densities allowed per the general plan, setbacks, building height, and floor area ratio, with the exception of lot area and lot width. As mentioned earlier, despite the lot being non-conforming, the proposed project meets all relevant development standards of the zone, and no deviations are being requested in terms of development standards. Next, please. Regarding parking, the subject property is located within the village parking exemption district, which per the municipal code exempts all commercial development within the boundaries of the district from the requirement to provide on-site parking as part of new commercial development. This is based on the fact that there is public parking available in city lots, private parking lots, and street parking. Regarding the project's conformance with applicable parking standards, the code requires that multiple family residential projects within the parking exemption district, that these projects provide one parking space per bedroom. So as the project proposes 3 one-bedroom units, 3 one-car parking spaces are provided, 1 parking space for each unit, which is located in a garage. Next. Shown here is the conceptual landscape plan. As mentioned earlier, there's an existing 48-inch oak tree to the north of the subject property within a portion of land owned by the Los Angeles County Flood Control District. Conditions of approval have been included in the draft resolution to ensure that the oak tree is protected during construction activities and that an arborist be on site to ensure this. As no on-site trees are being removed, there is no replacement required per the city's urban forestry manual. The project plans provide a conceptual landscape plan, which is shown, and it proposes various plants and shrubs to be planted around the site. Staff believes that a couple of tall, narrow trees would improve the overall site design and maybe even provide some shade. Therefore, staff has included a condition of approval to add these trees as requested within the formal landscape plan submittal. Regarding the public right-of-way, a relocated tree well in the right-of-way, as mentioned earlier, will include a new California Bay laurel tree, which is an approved type of species per the Parks Division. Lastly, the tree well will be improved with a tree grade and lighting as requested by the city's Parks Division. And just lastly, final landscape and irrigation plans must be submitted to planning and water divisions for review and compliance with state model water efficiency ordinance prior to any building permit issuance. Next. The plans have been submitted to Los Angeles County Fire Department for review in April of 2021. So they have been reviewed by LA County Fire, and standard plan check comments were provided to the applicant. A conditional approval has been included within the draft resolution to ensure that the construction plans are reviewed and approved by the fire department prior to city building permit issuance. Next. Notices were mailed out to all property owners within 500 feet of the subject property on September 24th, 2021. Notice was also published in the San Gabriel Valley Examiner on September 26, 2021. To date, staff has received one inquiry regarding the project, but no opposition to the project has been expressed, and the plans were shared as available online. Next. In conclusion, staff recommends the approval of this project as modified by the conditions of approval. The project is consistent with the development standards of the zone and the city's general plan. Additionally, the project serves to redevelop a currently vacant lot with a development that's appropriate, aesthetic, and an allowed land use for its location, as well as provide needed housing to the community which is within the proximity to the downtown village area. As such, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a notice of exemption for this project pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15303, and hereby grant a non-conforming lot development plan review to allow the construction of 3 two-story multiple family residential units at 117 North Vista Bonita Avenue, subject to the conditions of approval. That concludes my staff report. I am available to answer any questions that the commission or members of the public may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, if the applicant, Lindsay Reffeld, would like to address the commission, you have 10 minutes.
We're not sure if she's on.
Sorry, she may have not made it to the meeting. I don't see her in the meeting, but the architect Joe Calabrese is here. If
Okay.
you would like to be unmuted and speak on behalf of the project.
Okay.
Hello. I think Lindsay Reffeld and Dean Reffeld, they might be under Dean, and maybe we can get them on. I know they have to sell and speak, but I'm the architect, and I'm here along with Lindsay Figueroa. We've worked on this project together starting from about 2018. We've been working with the owners and with the staff, and I'd just like to say that we're looking forward to the project, and really with us, Mark and Joseph, and they've been great to work with. They've offered a lot of wonderful suggestions, and we've incorporated many of them. And if we couldn't incorporate them, we gave some good reasons why not to. But we do did a great presentation. Thank you very much. And we're here for any questions you have, and we're in agreement with the conditions. Not sure what else you'd like to hear from me, but we're here if you have any questions. And we see the name up there. If you can get them on. Otherwise, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so at this time, if there are any members of the public that would like to address the commission, you are limited to 3 minutes, speaking once on this public hearing item. This is your time to speak uninterrupted. Please address your comments to me, the presiding officer. Public comment is limited to 30 minutes. If you would like to request to speak, please select the raise hand icon in Zoom before the close of public comment. If you would, you'll then be called when your turn is up to speak. Have any public comments been received?
I have received no emails for this public hearing, but we're getting a request from a dean wanting to speak. So we're
Okay.
gonna mute you, Dean.
We are the applicants.
Oh, okay. We're trying to figure it out, like, what is going on?
Okay, go ahead then. You have some time remaining. So I believe you had about 9 minutes remaining to speak.
No,
if you...
I probably will only use the 3. I think
Okay.
Joe Calabrese did a great job, and Joseph Weaver, thank you also for what you've done. Good evening, Vice Chair and members of the commission. I'm Lindsay Rayfeld. This is my husband, Dean, and we own the property at 117 North Vista Bonita. I just wanted to just kind of reflect a little bit for a couple minutes, and that's all we'll be saying this evening. But as I thought about this, I thought of DNA and Ancestry.com and 23andMe. And the reason I thought of that is because that technology has revealed all sorts of ugly family secrets. We've discovered biological siblings that we never knew we had. We've discovered our sisters are our half sisters and our brothers are our uncles. And all these secrets were supposed to go to the grave. So many family secrets have been revealed. And it just really reminded me of the process that we've gone through with 117 North Vista Bonita, because it's uncovered a multitude of sins and secrets. Although it should be a treasured piece of Glendora history because it was originally inhabited by Colonel and Minnie Underhill, who are important figures to the history of Glendora. When they moved on to their spectacular home on 131 East Foothill Boulevard, which is the Visiting Angels property, the 117 North Vista Bonita began to meet its demise over the next several decades. And as Glendora developed, the poor little property continued to be riddled with easements, land taken away from it, and it really limited what could be done on this property and limit its future. The tenants that were there, some of you will remember, abused the property for over 25 years. It was illegally divided into multiple units. So all told, they already had 4 units on this property. They had people living in the attic, people living in the rickety shed in the back, described as a garage, and there were people living underneath and dug underneath the house, which ruined the foundation. It was a common stop for Glendora PD for reasons for drugs, for bonfires in the backyard, all kinds of things happened there. We agreed to purchase this property in conjunction with 131 East Foothill. We knew it would be a challenge. I don't think anybody had an idea of how much of a challenge it would be. It's been a long journey. The city officials, the county officials, engineers, architects, everybody who's touched this project have been surprised at the things that we've uncovered and had to deal with. So we've employed significant resources to design something that not only we could be proud of, but the city of Glendora and the downtown village could be proud of, and also makes economic sense. So we are vested in Glendora. We first moved here shortly after graduating from Azusa Pacific over 35 years ago. Our boys went to GHS and we owned a business here for 20 years. So we are happy to be at this point and be at the commission. We are happy to answer questions. We may have to defer some to Joe and Lindsay, the architects. But we want to thank you for being here, and we look forward to the approval of this project. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate those comments. So are there any other public comments?
I'm not seeing anybody in the Zoom wishing to speak. If you can please raise the icon hand. Seeing none, we have no other testimonies.
Okay, so I will go ahead then and close public comment and go to my fellow commissioners. Commissioner Norwood, comments or questions?
One question for the young planning gentleman that presented the PowerPoint. Forgive me, I forgot the name already.
Joseph Weaver.
The senior moment already. But you mentioned about notices going out on September 24th and 26th of 2021. And given that we're only on September 7th, is that a typo? Maybe I misunderstood. Did they go out in August? Did they go out last year?
You know what? I apologize. That was a typo. They went out, the notices were mailed out on August 24th. And the notice was published in the newspaper, which is the San Gabriel Valley Examiner, on August 26th. So my apologies for that.
Oh, thank you, Joseph. I just wanted to clarify that because no, I'm excited about the project. I know that the condition it was in when it came to the Planning Commission for to be demolished. I know it's an old piece of property, but it had hit a state where it was in disrepair. So again, given the state of where the state of California is going in terms of housing, the fact that this is a 1 bedrooms, limited parking, close to the gold line, kind of the future of what I think you could start seeing some of the projects in the downtown area start look like. So I think it's well done, and I'm looking forward to some additional housing on a vacant piece of land.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Ursetti, comments or questions?
Yeah, thank you, Vice Chair Cross, and I want to say thank you to Joseph for that presentation as well. I too am excited about this development. I think very creative use of a vacant lot so close to downtown, and I think it would be an exciting place to live for people. And anytime we can see vacant land developed, I think in a way that looks and kind of shares that feel of the downtown and kind of mirrors the historic district too. I think that is great. And like Commissioner Norwood said, I think we're under pressure to come up with some solutions for housing in this city, and in a city that's already substantially developed. I think it is a creative use, and I think will serve the owner and the community as well. So thank you.
Okay, and I also really appreciate the amount of thought that went into this project. It is currently a vacant lot. Prior to this, it was kind of a rundown lot. So I'm glad to see something nice and that has potential go in there. I appreciate the fact that you paid homage to where it is in terms of the look of it, that historical homage to it. I would hope that you could find some room for some trees on the lot. I always love trees, and I think having them is always beneficial. So but other than that, I think it's a great project, and I'm looking forward to seeing it built. So I guess we close public hearing then.
If we're finished with deliberations and there's no further questions of staff or the applicant, that is correct.
Okay, so is there any motion?
I'll make a motion. The motion would be to approve this project as modified with the conditions of approval, and to adopt a notice of exemption for CEQA.
Okay, and I will second that motion.
We have a motion made by Commissioner Ursetti, seconded by Vice Chair Cross. I will conduct a roll call vote. Commissioner Norwood?
Yes.
Commissioner Ursetti?
Yes.
Vice Chair Cross?
Yes.
Motion carries with 3-0 with 1 absent. Thank you.
Okay, next item. This is the consideration of a resolution to approve a development plan review to allow grading over 150 cubic yards for the construction of a single-story, single-family residence on certain property at 1000 North Grand Avenue, APN 8636-014-007. Applicant is Bledsoe Guerin Engineering and Surveying, Amy Bledsoe. Project number PLN 190024. So I invite Assistant Planner Joseph Weaver to present the staff report for us.
And open the public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I will open the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, and hello again, everyone. This item is a request for the approval of a development plan review to allow grading over 150 cubic yards for a new single-story, single-family residence located at 1000 North Grand Avenue. Project number is PLN 19-0024. Next. The applicant is requesting the approval of a development plan review, which would allow grading over 150 cubic yards within a hillside zone and the construction of a new single-story, single-family residence. In summary, the proposed residence is 5,613 square feet and a single story. Also included is a detached 3-car garage with an open carport. Next. Some history on the site. So similar to the last presentation, this site was once developed with a single family residence, which was built around 1909 and a garage being added around 1919, according to permit records. The residence and garage were destroyed in a 1964 fire and then subsequently demolished. The property has since remained undeveloped, and all that currently remains on the site is a building pad area, a private driveway, which you can kind of see in this historic aerial, existing trees, and some temporary on-site structures that are currently on the site. Next. The subject property, which is referred to as 1000 North Grand Avenue, is approximately 309,561 square feet or 7.1 acres in size, and is located 2 lots north of the northerly terminus of North Grand Avenue. The lot has a width of 455 feet and a depth of 680 feet, as well as an average slope of 52%. The majority of the property is encumbered with steep slope areas to the north of the building pad, which limit the existing pad area towards the center of the lot, which is highlighted in red. The surrounding areas include existing single-family residences, as well as vacant lots. Next. The project site has a general plan land use designation of Hillside Very Low Density Residential. A single-family residence is consistent with this land use designation. As shown, properties to the east and south have similar land use designations, while properties to the north and west consist of both open space and low-density residential land use designations. Next. The project site has a zoning designation of Rural Hillside Residential, or RHR. Properties to the east and south consist of identical zoning designations, while properties to the north and west consist of open space and E7 single-family designations. Next. So the next few slides will contain some existing site photos. This is a photo of an existing gate towards the base of the property where the driveway comes up. This is facing north. Next. These next couple photos will be taken while ascending the driveway up to the building pad. So this is standing in the driveway at the southeast corner of the lot facing east. Next. Another photo of the driveway. This photo is facing northeast, kind of heading up the driveway towards the building pad. Next. And this is looking back on the existing driveway at the east end of the lot. This photo is facing to the west. Next, sorry. Now we're at the top of the building pad. So this is kind of the flat pad area that was highlighted in the photos earlier. This photo is facing west. Next. Another photo of the building pad a little further down. This is facing northwest. You can kind of see some of the hillside areas above. Next. And again, another photo from the building pad. This is facing south. This photo kind of gives you a good idea on how large the building pad area is and kind of where the home is going to go. Next. And another photo from, again, the building pad. This photo is facing to the east. Next. And I believe this is the last photo. This is a photo of the hillside areas to the north of the pad. It's important to note none of the natural hillside areas that you see here will be touched really, as they are consists of steep slope areas which aren't allowed to be graded per the code. Next, please. Okay, shown here on the right side is an existing site plan slash topography map. Again, the site is currently vacant and undeveloped, with the exception of various existing trees and temporary on-site structures. And on the left is sort of a 3D visual that gives you an idea on how the lay of the land looks in the existing site conditions. Next. So shown here is the proposed site plan. The proposed development consists of a 5,613 square foot single-story, single-family residence and a 900 square foot detached garage with an open carport. As shown, the residence will be situated on an existing building pad, which we just saw in the photos, within the same location as the previous residence that used to be there. And the site will be served by a private driveway as shown. Next. This is the proposed floor plan. The residence will include 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a master suite with a master bath, a game room, kitchen, family room, 3-car garage, and other assorted living spaces. A 900 square foot detached 3-car garage with a 528 square foot open carport is also proposed and shown on your top right. Next. So this proposed single-story residence features a Mediterranean style architectural design with numerous columns, multiple tower features, and an extensive hip roof design. I want to clarify that the exterior appearance of the residence may seem to look like it's 2-story because of its height, but this is a single-story residence. It just has a high roof line, and it is below the 25-foot height requirement for the zone. Next. And shown here is just some elevations of the detached garage and carport, as I mentioned earlier, which architecturally is consistent with the main house. Next. And for color and materials, the proposed exterior of the residence will consist primarily of a La Habra stucco finish, pure ivory color. Core bells and fascia will be finished in a wood stain brown color as shown there. And the roof material will consist of mission clay tile. Next. Onto development standards as shown on table C. This project complies with all applicable development standards, including lot standards, setbacks, building height, lot coverage, and parking as shown in the table here. Next, please. And on table D, which is shown, the subject property consists of an average slope of over 45%. Because of this average slope, the municipal code places a maximum lot coverage of 5%, which in this case is a maximum lot coverage of 15,478 square feet. This project proposes a lot coverage of 3.7% or 11,476 square feet, which is compliant with lot coverage requirements for this particular property. And also I've referenced some exemptions to lot coverage pursuant to the municipal code below the table there. Next. So on to access. There's kind of a lot going on in this slide, so I'll kind of try to explain the access here. So access to the site is served from an existing private driveway. So this driveway used to serve the house that was burned down. This driveway connects the subject property to the northern terminus of North Grand Avenue. The private driveway runs along the western side of 2 other properties noted as 852 and 920 North Grand Avenue, which are situated south of the subject property between North Grand Avenue and 1000 North Grand Avenue. These three visuals contain colored match lines to give you a better idea of the driveway axis. So the red lines will match up together, the green lines will match up together, and then you could see the driveway on the kind of left side connect down to Grand Avenue, which is the very top of Grand Avenue where it terminuses. On-site improvements include the widening of the existing driveway to a width varying from 15 to 20 feet wide. Additionally, there will be a reconfiguration of the existing on-site driveway. Currently, there are existing hairpin turns that need to be removed in order to be compliant with LA County Fire Department access requirements. So that's proposed. Off-site work taking place on 852 and 920 North Grand Avenue, which are the adjacent properties to the south, involve widening the existing driveway to a width varying from 16 to 20 feet. An existing non-functioning concrete water reservoir, which is located on the northwestern portion of the 920 North Grand Avenue property, is proposed to be removed as it's non-functional and will need to be removed in order to facilitate the driveway improvements. Proposed access has been reviewed and approved by Los Angeles County Fire Department, and the applicant and project team work really hard to kind of work with the fire department to get this project's access at least approved by them. So that's been obtained. Lastly, a condition of approval has been included, which would require the applicant to provide evidence from a title insurance company, which would ensure legal access to the site from Grand Avenue. And this condition must be satisfied prior to the issuance of building or grading permits. Next, please. The applicant has submitted a conceptual grading plan as shown, which estimates 5,400 cubic yards of cut and 5,400 cubic yards of fill. The grading quantities shall be balanced on site, and no grading activities shall be permitted in any natural steep slope areas which exceed 35% slope. Those areas are highlighted in blue there. As the project consists of an existing building pad, the majority of the grading is due to the reconfiguration of the driveway and the removal of undocumented fills, uncertified fills, earth slips, slides, and slows, which were conducted during grading activities in the early 1900s. This grading will be necessary to prevent future soil failures and to stabilize the building pad. Again, most of this work will occur on site south of the existing building pad downslope to the existing driveway. Due to the reconfiguration of the road and other related grading activities, crib walls varying from 2 feet to 15 feet in height are being proposed on the northern side of the on-site driveway. The municipal code states that crib walls visible from public rights-of-way shall not exceed 15 feet in height as measured from the base of the walls. In this instance, the proposed walls shall not exceed 15 feet in height, and staff notes that these walls will likely not be visible from any public rights-of-way due to the existing trees surrounding the property, as well as this property's proximity to any public right-of-way. Staff has included conditions of approval requiring that the proposed walls be covered with landscape screening and requiring that the applicant submit the material of the proposed wall so that staff can ensure its compatibility with the natural hillside colors and that sort of thing. Lastly, 3 infiltration trenches are proposed on site to capture and treat stormwater runoff. Next, please. Shown here is a cut and fill exhibit, which will visually depict the areas of grading on the site. So red represents the proposed cut quantities and green represents the proposed fill areas. Next. Lastly, on the conceptual grading plan are cut sections, which provide section visuals of the lot and demonstrate existing versus proposed ground surface in terms of elevation. Standard conditions of approval have been included, which address all Public Works Department requirements related to this project. The applicant will be conditioned to submit final soils, geotechnical investigation reports at the time of final grading and drainage plan submittals. Furthermore, the applicant shall comply with all relevant requirements in the municipal code, which provides standards for grading in the hillside zone. And all of these sheets that I just showed are available in the conceptual grading plan, which is included as attachment F. Just while looking at the sections, you could see the dash line sections are the existing ground topography, and the solid sections, it's kind of small and hard to read, but the solid line is the proposed ground surface area. So you can kind of see the differences there. Next, please. This is the conceptual landscape plan for the project. The proposed project includes the removal of 7 coast live oak trees and 2 Mexican fan palm trees. Staff notes that various conditions of approval have been added to the draft resolution to ensure that the landscaping is designed in conformance with the applicable municipal code sections, and as well as meets the tree replacement requirements listed in the city's urban forestry manual. Protection measures will be taken to ensure the safety of the existing trees that are proposed to remain and be protected. And any grading or construction activities must be shown that these trees will be protected and show those protection measures. Lastly, final landscape plans and irrigation plans will need to be submitted to the planning division, all prior to building permit submittal. And also the project's located within a very higher severity zone. As such, LA County Fire Department requires the approval of a fuel modification plan. And I'd like to note that the applicant has also obtained approval of a fuel modification plan approved by LA County Fire Department. And these conceptual landscape plans can be viewed to this as attachment G to the staff report. Next, please. Regarding water, a private on-site water system, including a 12,500 gallon on-site water tank, which is shown highlighted in red there, will be constructed in order to provide adequate pressure for fire protection and domestic use. As the subject property is located above the hydraulic serviceability of the city's water system, the city's water division has included conditions of approval which require that a water improvement plan be reviewed and approved prior to permit issuance. The plan shall demonstrate the proposed method of lifting water to the range of the water tank, water meter size, proposed meter location, and water demand calculations. Lastly, a condition of approval has been included requiring that additional details be submitted to the planning division staff regarding the appearance of the water tower, its height, along with it, if any screening will be needed as part of its construction. Next. These plans have been reviewed and approved by LA County Fire Department on April 15th, 2021 regarding access. Additionally, a fuel modification plan was submitted and approved by the fire department. The fire department also reviewed an application for the proposed private on-site water system and provided a list of conditions to the applicant relating to the proposed private water supply. Lastly, a condition of approval has been added to ensure that the project's construction plans are reviewed and approved by the fire department prior to the issuance of building permits. Next. Notices were mailed out to the property owners within 500 feet of the subject property on, there's a typo here again, so I apologize. The notices were mailed out on August 24th, 2021. And the notice was published in the San Gabriel Valley Examiner on August 26, 2021. To date, staff has received 2 inquiries regarding this project from adjacent neighbors. No opposition to the project was expressed and the plans were shared as requested and questions answered. Next. As such, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt a categorical exemption for the project pursuant to section 15303 of CEQA guidelines, and hereby grant a development plan review to allow grading over 150 cubic yards, which would facilitate a new single-story, single-family residence located at 1000 North Grand Avenue. That concludes my staff report, and again, I am available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we would like to invite the applicant, Amy Bledsoe, engineer, if she would like, she has 10 minutes, if she'd like to have any comments.
Hello, hopefully you can all hear me.
Yes.
Okay, thank you,
Yes.
Joseph. Thank you, Joseph, for the presentation and for your help in getting these plans prepared. My name is Amy Bledsoe. I'm with Bledsoe Jerome Engineering and Surveying, Inc. And we are the civil engineers responsible for the design of the grading and drainage. I'm here basically just to answer whatever questions you might have in regards to the grading and drainage. Also here is the owner of the property who intends to build his home there, Mr. Rob Reggio. I believe he called in, so he's listening in here. We have both reviewed the conditions of approval and have no objections to those. So I'll keep it short and take any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we will open to public comment. So if you are a member of the public, you have 3 minutes speaking once on this public hearing item. Please address your comments to me, the presiding officer, and the public comment is limited to 30 minutes. If you would like to speak, please use the raise hand icon in Zoom before the close of public comment period. You'll then be called on when it is your turn. Do we have any public comments?
We have no emails that have come in, but we have nobody that has raised their hand, but we're looking to, we have a phone by the name of Mallory Ross iPhone. We're gonna ask you to mute. We're not sure if you would like to speak. Mallory Ross iPhone, are you wishing to speak tonight? Okay, seeing none.
Okay, so then at this time, I'm going to close that part of public comment and see if our commissioners have any comments or questions. So Commissioner Norwood.
Thank you, Joseph, for that was a very good presentation. Appreciate it. You mentioned a private water system. It's that private water system, and maybe either Jeff or Mark can chime in on this one too. That is fed by the city water, but the private water system itself is maintained by the owner. So essentially the water is pumped up from Glendora's water department up to this private system, and then after that everything is maintained by the owner of the property.
Hi, Kurt. I believe you're correct. Yes. If I'm wrong, I'll have Amy, which is the civil, correct me, but I believe you're correct. Yes.
And maybe we can have Amy address any questions from the commissioners after we've all asked them. Thanks. Kurt, did you have anything else?
No, on the private water system, I'm just curious how often, who goes up and makes sure that it's being properly maintained, especially if it's for fire protection. Obviously, it's for their domestic use. They're going to want water, but to make sure that who goes up and makes sure that it is being properly maintained, that typically we don't go in and private, when I say we, I'm saying the fire department isn't going and inspect residential structures to ensure that the sprinkler system is up to date. But since this is a complete only private water system that's just being fed by Glendora Water, I'm just curious how we make sure that that system is maintained.
Okay, I believe the water tank and water system obviously will need to be constructed and built in accordance with not only city water division requirements, but LA County Fire Department requirements. In terms of maintenance of that water system over the years, I would assume that maintenance would fall upon the property owner to ensure that system is properly functioning throughout the years. But that's really what I would assume.
Yes, and I agree with you. I'm just seeing if anyone, whether it's staff or the engineer, has any idea of how that system would be maintained, because this is different than just some normal residential where the water goes in. I mean, this is a gravity-fed system that has to be maintained for fire protection in conjunction with their domestic use. And I guess I'm trying to figure out, how do we know it's being maintained? I mean, so that's all.
Okay. Commissioner Ursetti, any comments or questions?
No, I think it looks great. I think it's really nice to see a house built on a lot that's been vacant for so long. It looks like a beautiful home. And yeah, I guess there might be one just to follow up. Is there any other homes in the city that we do this with? And maybe Mark and Jeff know if there's any homes to that height that we've had to pump to from the city unit. And then the last thing I would say is, Jeff, you need to take out the timer in Joseph's office for his lights, because the guy keeps having to.
I have to wave every 10 minutes, but it's okay.
All right, that's it for me.
Okay, thank you. I basically, I think it's a good project. I like to see, people being able to develop on their land. I agree that it's a very unique project. And I also had similar questions about the water system and who would be responsible for maintaining that. And if it is the homeowner, what guarantees do we have that it's going to be adequately maintained over the years? And especially for things, obviously you're going to maintain it because, you want personal water in your house, but even for things, given where it's situated, like fire suppression and that kind of thing. So that was my question as well. So perhaps Ms. Bledsoe, if you have about 5 minutes, if you want to respond to those questions.
Yes, well, I'll do my best to do that. Yeah, I agree that the maintenance will be done by the owner. But I don't have an answer for you in regards to who checks up on that. That's a good question. I think that's a question that would be best answered by the Glendora Water Department, I would think. I don't think there's anybody present at this meeting right now that might be able to field that question, but we could certainly find out if there's something in place that, checks those systems. I do know that there are other similar water systems in the city. There's two, I believe, in the Sunflower area and the South Hills area that I'm aware of that have their own private on-site tank. And I think there's possibly another one right next door in the Rainbow development.
Okay. Would anybody on staff happen to have the answer to that question about who would ensure that that's maintained? And
it likely would be the property owner. I'm not aware that the city ever goes on to private property. There are cases where, for example, the system for the Bonnie Cove project, once you get to the curb and it goes up that street, it's on private property. So it's the responsibility of the HOA to provide, maintenance of that water system. It's not the city's water system at that point. So the city will ensure and the fire department will ensure that it's built to standards. I'm not sure if there's any inspections of things like backflow devices, that are there for some reason to protect our water system. I don't know about other specific systems. Amy mentioned a couple, and I don't doubt that that's true, particularly with the project properties in the South Hills area. I do know that there were a couple of custom homes that may have their own tanks up there. So I can't think of any specific examples like this.
Okay. Commissioner Norwood, does that answer the questions you had?
Yes, yeah, I know once it hits the curb, it's on the owners. This one seems a little bit unique because the fact that Glendora's water does not reach the residential structure itself, that it gets fed into a tank that actually gravity feeds the fire suppression system. And we rely on that system to any other house that's being built that has residential fire sprinklers. We know what the pressure is that's coming in, and the water department division would know what's feeding the house. But as it feeds a tank, and then we rely on those pipes feeding the house for fire suppression, I'm not going to hold it against the property and not vote for it, but I do have some questions on because it is a little bit more unique than a typical residential fire suppression system. So I guess maybe I'll do some inquiries with the water division and the fire department itself and see, just for my future reference. But I appreciate your time. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, well, we can look into that and help you out with the answers.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from any of the commissioners? Okay, so do I have a motion? Do I have a motion for this recommendation?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve with all the what was been presented tonight. The no modifications based on the fire department's approval and the water division's approval and the planning division's approval. So.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
So we have a motion made by Commissioner Norwood, seconded by Commissioner Arcetti. I will conduct a roll call. Commissioner Norwood?
Yes.
Commissioner Arcetti?
Yes.
Vice Chair Koss?
Yes.
Motion carries with 3-0 with 1 absent. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, the 5th item on our agenda is a public hearing on the consideration of a resolution to approve a development review and variance allowing the construction of a 2-story single-family residence and related grading over 150 cubic yards located at 694 Gordon Highlands Road, project number PLN 210013. Applicant Samir Sharma, property owner is Richard Bokakian. I hope I said that right. So let's have Associate Planner Natalie Espinoza. Could you please give us the staff report?
If you could make sure you open up the public hearing before.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I already said that, but okay, I will open up the public hearing for this. Thank you.
Yeah, and just for clarity on the record, prior to the motion being made on the prior item, that the public hearing goes.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Next slide. Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair Koss and members of the Commission. Tonight before you is a request for the Planning Commission to adopt a categorical exemption pursuant to CEQA and adopt a resolution approving a development plan review and variance to allow the construction of a new 2-story residence with related grading over 150 cubic yards. Next slide. The site is located at the terminus of Gordon Highlands Road, southeast of Hillcrest Drive. The site is approximately 3 acres in size and is a vacant lot that has roughly graded buildable pad and access road. It is a part of the Gordon Highlands development that was designed and approved in the late 1980s and early 90s under city standards that are different than the ones in place today. The site is zoned rural hillside residential and has a general plan land use designation of hillside, very low density. Next slide. These are a couple perspective views of the site. To its north, south, and east, there are vacant lots, and to the west, there is a single family residence. Next slide. The project request consists of a development plan review for the approval of a 7,705 square foot, 2-story residence with 1,295 square feet of garage area and related grading over 150 cubic yards. A variance to allow additional grading and construction within areas where its natural slope exceeded 35%, and the CEQA categorical exemption. Next slide. This is the proposed site plan of the property. The project's going to roughly follow the same access road that it currently has, and the house is proposed in roughly the same area where the buildable pad is currently located. Next slide. The proposed first floor consists of typical common areas, 2 guest rooms with bathrooms and closets, wine cellar, a gun safe room, a game cigar room, theater, and 2 garages with a total of 6 spaces. Next slide. The proposed second floor includes 4 bedrooms with walk-in closets and bathrooms and balconies, an exercise and yoga room, and a laundry room. Next slide. As previously mentioned, the proposed grading is proposed as part of the DPR application. The applicant is proposing to cut 685 cubic yards of soil and fill 685 cubic yards with 1,000 cubic yards of over excavation that was recommended by the soils engineer. Grading plans and soils reports are required to be submitted for review and approval by the Public Works Department. Additionally, variance approval is also requested to allow grading and construction that encroaches into areas of previously unpermitted grading and areas which had previously exceeded 35% slope. Next slide. The project complies with the development standards for new single-family residences in the Hillside residential zone. Next slide. The project also complies with the allowable second-story floor area. Based on the average slope of the lot, the maximum lot coverage is 10%. And the project complies because it is only proposing 7.6% lot coverage. Next slide. The conceptual landscape plans are required to be submitted for plan check and approval prior to the issuance of building permits. The property is located in very high fire severity zone. Therefore, final landscape and irrigation plans need to also be submitted to the fire department for review and approval. There are 16 existing oak trees located on the property, which are proposed to remain. Next slide. The project is designed in a modern style, which includes a flat roof with large overhangs, smooth finished stucco, vertical wood siding, and dark wood and metal accents and trims. The house will also include large vertical windows throughout the house and metal and glass garage doors with glass balcony railings. These are a couple of renderings that the applicant provided of the front of the house. Next slide. And this is a rendering of the rear of the end side of the house. Next slide. As previously stated, the project is categorically exempt from CEQA. Next slide. Staff requests that the Planning Commission adopt the categorical exemption and also adopt the related Planning Commission resolution approving the proposed project. The project team and property owner and I are available if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, we have, I believe, the property owner or applicant Shamir Sharma is here. Did you want to address the commission?
Yes, good evening, planning commissioners. My name is Samir Sharma. I'm here on behalf of Richard and Delpha Buchaki, the property owners. I'd like to thank Natalie Espinoza for a fantastic presentation, for helping get the project here at the planning commission meeting today. It's been a pleasure to work with her, and we feel like we've hopefully designed something that fits within the neighborhood, follows all the local guidelines and the municipal code, and we're here with the whole project team to answer any questions that may arise. So thank you again.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'm going to invite members of the public to address the commission. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes, speaking once on the hearing item. Please address your comments to me, the presiding officer. If you'd like to request to speak, select the raise hand icon in Zoom before the close of public comment. You'll then be called when it is your turn to speak. Do we have any public comments on this project?
I have no emails and we are seeing none on the Zoom. If anybody wishing to speak, we have none.
Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and ask the commissioners to go ahead and give us any comments or questions you have. So Commissioner Norwood.
Yeah, I think it's a good project. I have no issues with anything that was presented, and nor what the conditions of the projects are. So that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Ursetti.
Oh, thank you for the presentation. That was very thorough, and yeah, no comments or no questions for me. Comments, it looks beautiful, and I think it'll be a great project.
And I echo that, a very thorough presentation. I like the project. I'm glad you're keeping all the oak trees because I seem to be the tree person, but I'm glad to hear that. But other than that, I have no questions or comments. So I will go ahead and close public hearing and request.
And perhaps I didn't hear it from the applicant, but you have reviewed the conditions of approval and you are agreeable to them?
Yes, that is correct. We reviewed the conditions of approval and we're agreeable to it.
Thank you.
Okay, so I will close public hearing and request a motion to approve this recommendation. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Motion to adopt the resolution and adopt the notice of the exemption for CEQA.
And I will second that motion.
So we have a motion made by Commissioner Arcetti, seconded by Vice Chair Cross. I will conduct an oral roll call. Commissioner Norwood? Was that a yes? I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Arcetti?
Yes.
Vice Chair Cross?
Yes.
Motion carries with 3-0 and 1 absent. Thank you.
Okay, moving to the consent calendar items. The item is the Planning Commission minutes from the last meeting. I request a motion to approve those minutes from the July 6, 2021 meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve those meeting minutes.
Yeah, and I'll second it.
Okay.
So we have a motion made by Commissioner Arcetti, seconded by Commissioner Norwood to approve consent calendar item number 6 as presented. I will call an oral roll call. Commissioner Norwood?
Yes.
Commissioner Arcetti?
Yes.
Vice Chair Cost?
Yes.
Motion carries 3-0 with 1 absent. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, there are no commission agenda items. There are no unfinished business items, and I see no new business items. So we are down to any commissions or staff closing comments. Commissioner Norwood, do you have any closing comments?
I have none today. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Arcetti?
None from me. Thank you.
Okay, anybody, I also do not have any closing comments other than to thank everybody for their hard work on these presentations. Do staff have any closing comments?
No closing comments.
Okay, then if there's nothing else, the meeting is adjourned at, let's see, I have 9:25. I'm sorry, 9:35.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Bye-bye.